Hello, anyone who's watching this. I'm going to do another one of these weather ones quickly, just going over everything that we've got at the moment and then what we've got coming up over the next week, and then a little outlook into the month of February and what I think is probably going to happen in the longer term. So we've had Storm Eowyn, and it was pretty good for the mountains. We've got quite a lot of snow. Temperatures were at a pretty good level while it was coming through, so this is the CSE hut, about 600 to 700 meters, and it was just around freezing for it. Snow has fallen to pretty low elevations, about 300 meters on the west coast, but that is changing at the moment, and I'll go into that in just a second. And it's going a bit colder now on the northwesterlies that we've got on the back end of that, but Storm Herminia coming through just now, but it's significantly less powerful, but it's slightly warmer core as well, so that will have some influence on the conditions. So when I was out yesterday, there was lots and lots of rime about. I've heard rime at like 350 meters as well, which is pretty crazy, but the sun did come out and did strip it a bit. The turf has not been frozen when I was out, so this is, I appreciate this is the Lake District, but 750 meters, you see it's well above freezing. Just getting down a bit further now, but the snow is kind of insulating it. It's keeping the moisture trapped in there. You kind of need a cold spell before you get this dump of snow to create frozen turf underneath this amount of snow. We reached a record for the hottest temperature ever on Helvellyn at 85 degrees Celsius. No, the temperature just broke, but before that broke, you could see that it was still hovering around the 0 degrees freezing level, further down, deeper in the soil, so that cooler temperature should help refreeze it from underneath as well as on top as we go through a couple of cycles over the next few days, few weeks. So stuff's being climbed. I think it's better conditions in the west and northwest especially, but I'll go into that in just a moment. It was obviously quite difficult to try and gauge what kind of routes were in condition after the storm, so there was lots of safe bets and they were rewarded quite well. There's all the stuff on the mixed routes on the Ben, obviously they're going to get absolutely plastered. Stuff in SCNL that's been at the forefront of the storm, so lots of rime around on the west coast, slightly less on the east coast, and yeah, northwest looks like it should be pretty good conditions, so it'd be cool to see some more people climbing up there over the next few days. It's worth noticing the size blogs, they're not going to go all green for the next week or two. So do just keep an eye on reading them. It's mainly just wind slab and cornice collapsing, and it might turn to like some sloughs or wet snow towards the weekend. But then hopefully that should refreeze and make some pretty good conditions. The blogs are really good. I'll just quickly go through the pictures. The most important thing about these, the Lochaber one, is that the South and North Castle gullies are pretty full, which is, we've not had that this season, so that's really good to see. And cornices aren't huge, but they're still starting to form. And yeah, just plenty of rime about. And the Glencoe ones are really good as well. The book looks amazing. I don't think I've seen it look this good this year. Icy conditions on the road again yesterday, so do bear that in mind if you want to go down Glen Etive or specific roads that don't get gritted. That's going to be quite interesting. There was a team on Alnwick Dhu as well, or team of two, which, that's pretty good. Low elevations are able to be climbed on. And yeah, there's just slightly less rime about in the east coast. It's not fully black, but there's better options out west in my opinion. But the convenience of the northern corries. But the most important thing that I think is really cool is the northwest. It's looking really, really good. There's a really good picture of Ben A. I'll just show you just here, and a decent amount of rime on Ben A. But if I go to the pit profile, it's really simple, so I thought I'd delve into this a little bit. Really deep, but it's actually quite stable. It's just the top section which is propagating fractures, and it's not full depth, and it's not particularly lying on a particularly weak layer. So, it's pretty good conditions. Yes, it'll be a bit wady at the moment, but it'll be really cool to get out there in the next few days, basically. So we have the back end of Storm Herminia moving through just now. It was named by the Spanish Meteorological Office, so it's not going to be as strong as they had it. It was really strong over the Atlantic, gusting up to 160, but I don't think we'll see gusts above 60, 70 on the highest peaks. But it's just not particularly pleasant today and tomorrow. It'll be really, really good conditions, a bit breezy, really poor visibility and quite a bit of precipitation. So obviously keep in mind what the snowpack's doing. Avalanche risk is going to be quite variable over today and tomorrow. But once that moves through, we're getting some really cold conditions coming back again, with freezing levels down to really low levels on top of this little cycle that we've got. Something creeping in towards the weekend, but I'll get into that in just a second. So for The next few days, there's high confidence in what's happening, so I'm going to break that down quickly. We've got Storm Harmonia here just on top of us. It's a very slow moving low pressure, so it's not like particularly windy and particularly awful, but it's just kind of like poor visibility, like I say, but potentially really good climbing conditions to be out in it. Once that moves off, we've got a northwesterly wind on a slight ridge of high pressure to the south of us. So again, really good weather, but also should be good conditions in this colder air mass before something else comes just to dominate. And that's looking like it's going to try to build in towards the weekend, this warmer southwesterly wind. And if you've been following these, you'll have seen this trend so much this season, and I'm fed up with it. It's just a European high building, which brings really warm, moist air. It's what we had back in January that stripped everything really quickly. It's been trying to dominate for a couple weeks now, as in like from the first few weeks of February, but this area of low powering the jet stream, in the last couple of days, it's been saying that it's going to overpower the high and bring us back to the colder freezing conditions. And that could potentially bring a really good cycle of a slight thaw on the warmer southwesterly and then the jet stream barreling back to freeze everything back up again. And I'll just go through a couple different weather models to show that. But it's all very, very, very uncertain. You can see it's just, we've got Hermia coming through, temperatures cooling down on the back end of it, the high pressure just sitting here, and then this is the southwesterly wind coming, and then the graph just goes into absolute spaghetti. The outcomes are basically the high pressure could build over Europe, and what that would do is give us this southwesterly wind and a massive thaw again like we had in the second week of January. Similarly, the high pressure could dominate a little bit more over Scandinavia, and that would give us like an easterly sting, which would lower the temperatures and give us less moisture. Or what is most likely going to happen in the shorter term is the jet stream overpowers the high pressure of Europe to bring more conditions like we've got at the moment, colder air, northwesterly, and the further north you go, basically the colder it's going to be. So it'll be really good to see if that happens. So this is the GFS model here. And it's building in this high pressure towards this weekend, and that's probably going to be thawing with the freezing level above the summits, and it's bringing the colder air back on Monday with a couple of storm systems moving through again and just cycling between a positive NAO and a European high building as the jet stream tries to take over. We've got the ECMWF model here, so this is Storm Hermia moving through, the high pressure wedge building in for Thursday, Friday. That would be really nice to be out in that. Inversion conditions, really cold temperatures, really good climate conditions as well. The southwesterly wind building off this European high, and you can see the power of this jet, the really cold air sitting over America, just completely squashes it. So satisfying finally seeing this unideal regime being just pushed out of the way by the jet, and then back to the storm systems moving in and out that we've got at the moment with the warm and then the cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. That's basically how you build Topnik. You get the warm front with the moisture, and then the cold front's cooling us back down again. We've got the Arcus model here. Now this one is not good. So we've got Storm Hermia moving through, high pressure wedge building into European high, and then it just sits. It just sits, and the jet stream does not get powerful enough to overpower it, and this would probably just bring us back to a massive thaw, back to zero. And lastly, I've got the Icon model here. So Storm Armenia moving through, broken record again, high pressure wedge building in, really cold temperatures. This is the European high about to build on back into that with the southwesterly warm winds. The jet just ramping up there to completely squish it, push it out of the way for Monday. That's got it building slightly earlier and then being squished slightly earlier, but then yeah, you can see the cold air coming back with the next storm system coming through. This is just another version of the freezing level, which should hopefully show in a bit more of a visual way. So Storm Hermia moving through, colder air returns. So this is the freezing level about 500, so that's really good. The greens are kind of what we're hoping for. Warm air building, large thaw, and then the jet squishing it and bringing us back into the colder air for the start of next week, with freezing levels down to sea level on the west coast. So with the regimes, you can see the blocking system that's going to be building through Thursday, Friday into the weekend as that builds into a European high. So this is all this high pressure wedge building into the European, potentially into the Scandinavian as well, but there's quite a low chance of that. But that would be amazing if that did happen. And then the positive NAO is these storm systems coming back, and you can see there's a high signal for that kind of becoming more likely as we go into the second week of February. So that kind of trend is going to continue with the potential of this European high getting squashed in the foreseeable future, which would just be, I'm so sick of it basically. It just brings rain to everything, and it's really nice weather if you're a hill walker, but it just means we're going to go back to Thor that we had on January 14th. This is basically what the European high was. And I really like this graphic just to show the power of the jet stream pushing out the southwesterly winds. So this is it building in the southwesterly here on Friday, and the jet just trying to ramp up with this colder air over America, and you see it just pushes it completely out of the way before it's building the next storm system between the two legs of the jet here. That's got a specific name, I can't remember what it is. I'll find that one out, where the jet splits, and it just basically allows storms to build in the little cubby hole between the two areas of the jet, and it spins up really powerful, and then it can spin off into the second half as well. And that's this one just here moving through. So potentially stormy conditions. There's been a lot of signals for a storm around the 4th, 5th as it moves away. And for a metagram, this is for Sterling. You can see the slight thaw coming for this weekend as the inversion conditions come on the southwesterly, and then it gets pushed away. So most of them, apart from just one model there, are kind of saying we've got it being pushed out of the way for the start of next week, which should be really good conditions. You know, it does need a thaw to consolidate some of this snow. It's over 1.5 meters in some drifts, which is pretty hefty. So for the longer range, I just thought it was quite interesting, so I'll bring it up. There's very little change basically. So we're basically going to have this battle between European high building and the jet for a month, from what I can see, which is going to be quite stressful, as you know, there's no high signs of really stable. It's going to be good, but it could bring amazing conditions if we get the good balance between storm coming through European high thaw, storm coming through European high thaw. So if we get a good balance of those, we could get some really good conditions. If the high builds too much over Europe, then you know we're going to get a major thaw. But the strength of this low is kind of indicating that that is not particularly going to happen. So this is for the second week of February. The high sitting over Scandinavia, so some slightly colder easterly air, but similarly the low still sitting over Greenland, so the jet could still interject every now and again, and it kind of just sits like that. So the second week of Feb, the low moving further across, so that's it, the jet winning, and again high over Europe, slightly further north than we've got at the moment, the jet more powerful, but still similar kind of conditions. There's no indications of Greenland high building, so or an Atlantic high building. It's all sitting over Europe and Scandinavia, so it's going to be a constant battle, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how these two systems interact. And it could make really good conditions, or it could, you know, make an absolutely massive thaw which ends back. But I'm optimistic, and hopefully we should have a good few weeks of cycles coming through. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening.